Just when we think we've witnessed unmitigated arrogance, blame passing, and incompetence in our recent episode titled Montgomery County Board of Elections Clown Show, where the director couldn't provide members of the board the number of provisional ballots they had in hand 10 days after Election Day and 5 days before the required certification of Montgomery County's 2024 general election, we have evidence of duplicate voter registration records on Montgomery County's voter rolls. And even after being alerted to this by citizens in May 2024 and notified by the Ohio Secretary of State these duplicates needed to be remedied by August 1st, in this video, it's December 13th, more than a month past the election, and the director seems completely disinterested, and the board asks him no questions about the duplicates, which it appears still have not been fixed. You'll get to see for yourself. Here are the board members and staff of note you'll see in the videos. First, the 4 board members. Renee McLinn, chairperson and member, a Democrat appointee. Barbara P. Gorman, member, a Democrat appointee. Thomas A. Rootsong, member, a Republican appointee. Eric Blaine, member, a Republican appointee who was absent from this meeting. Then the 2 senior employees, both serving at the pleasure of the board. Jeff Rezebek, director, the head of the BOE. There is no employee more senior than him. He heads the BOE, but for his reporting to the board. The buck should stop with him. Russ Joseph, deputy director, who reports to the director. The first clip you'll see is a citizen who is active in election integrity efforts talk about meeting with the director in May 2024.
Good morning, I'm Marcel Sturbich. I'm from Washington Township, and this is my first time coming before the board. In May, however, I did seek and met with our director, Jeff Rezebek, in this office to discuss election legislation. To his credit, he was generous with his time, but up front, my impression was he was not interested in discussing the substance necessarily of what I came to present, which included over 41,000 potential voter records that were demonstrating questionable accuracy or validity on Montgomery's voter rolls.
41,000 potentially erroneous voter registrations in Montgomery County alone. The 2024 presidential election saw 258,566 voters cast ballots in Montgomery County, per the Secretary of State. 41,000 is 16% of the votes cast. Those records could be used for election fraud. They must be fixed.
Director Rezebek was most interested in process, and he made it clear to me without the discussion even opening that he would dismiss investigating this record request after analyzing a very small subset of data. Any further attempts to discuss aspects of voter record discrepancies seemed out of reach to me.
The citizen says the director, on only superficial review and discussion of the 41,000 defective records, dismissed the analysis at the meeting with no further research or review.
The next month, the SOS issued Directive 2024-11 Voter Registration Integrity Project, which tasked the County Board of Elections by August 1st via the digital dashboard to correct the very same flagged records presented to Director Rezebek by myself the month prior.
On June 27, 2024, the Secretary of State issued a directive to all boards of elections to fix problems like those identified by the citizen before August 1st, 2024.
On August 8th, following completion of a report card on the performance of that task, which I brought you today, Montgomery County BOE was revealed as only one of 3 counties statewide that failed to meet the Secretary of State's record accuracy correction standard. Not only did Montgomery County not meet the compliance threshold, the number of improper name character errors rose from 245 to 289. To make sure that I did not incorrectly assume that Montgomery County Board of Elections lacked data access to correct record errors, I contacted the Secretary of State, who referred me to Josh Jaffe, the Data Division Director. Mr. Jaffe confirmed that each county board of elections can see flagged duplicate records and does bear responsibility for investigating and reconciling those records.
On August 8th, 2024, Montgomery County is identified by the Secretary of State as still not having fixed these records. And the Secretary of State identified more errors that the citizen had not. The errors increased.
This prompted me to research the allowable Secretary of State threshold for duplicate records, which is found in Section 4.14 of the Election Official Manual. And it states that the monthly rolling total of duplicate records must not exceed 0.030%. Furthermore, the acceptable threshold of duplicate registrations per the Secretary of State Manual states that all duplicate registrations are expected by the SOS to resolve to zero, 14 days prior to the election. On October 26, 2024, the same data team pulled the Secretary of State data to show that the Montgomery County Board of Elections transferred 1,290 potential duplicate registrations or 635 pairs of voter definition files into the election precinct lists. This means, as a county, we transferred the risk and possibility that any number of the 635 pairs could double vote in our county. Worse, the possibility that any county board of elections will detect any of those thousands of potential duplicate registrations statewide is unlikely, because each voter record is assigned a unique ID number.
The citizen demonstrates knowledge of error rates acceptable to the Secretary of State, who has the responsibility of setting the time, place, and means by which we vote in Ohio, and tells the board that duplicate records must be resolved to zero by 2 weeks before the election. On October 26, 2024, the board transferred 1,290 potential duplicate records, or 635 duplicate pairs, into their election precinct list. The 635 pairs are how voter fraud can happen, and it's very hard to detect during voting.
The bottom line is, none of the compliance issues I highlighted with the Secretary of State directives or the election official manual violations should be happening. Respectfully, I request that the board take an interest in this matter to determine a proper cause and enact the necessary changes and remedies. To aid your efforts, I am providing you a copy of the August report I mentioned in the late October duplicate registrations forwarded to each member. And I hope to join you at your next meeting and learn how the board intends to address duplicate registrations and data entry voter records, along with any barriers that you may have in solving these matters. I thank you for your time and your accommodation this morning.
The citizen gets asked questions by only one board member.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, may I ask a question? Hey, before you go.
Yes, sir.
Marcel, would you say that threshold was?
The monthly threshold for duplicate registrations is set in the election officials manual at 0.030%.
Okay.
When I presented in May to Director Rezbeck, the number that I brought for investigation was 1,900. Now, the board did improve on that number right before the election. It came down to, and it states in here, in 3 different categories, which I checked with Josh Jaffe of the Secretary of State, and he confirmed that algorithm that we used to do this work. And it's down to about 1,290. But with that said, 14 days prior to an election, 4.14 states that they must be zero.
There are absolutely no questions by the board to the director or assistant director. Do they even care?
Another question for you. Do you know of those, now you said 1,000, what'd you say?
1,290 potential, and I call them potential because these need to be investigated. Okay. It's possible people are twins, duplicates, twins, they live in the same residence, but there's going to be duplicates for bugs.
Okay, so do you have any record or anything that says any one of those 1,290 people voted in Montgomery County?
We're in the process of, and I will provide that to the board, we're in the process of reviewing cast vote records. We have instances of that in other counties like Miami, but I didn't come to you today with that. But if that is an interest item to you, sir, and the board, I'm happy to bring that to you at your earliest convenience.
Well, if you're coming back, that'd be a cool thing to have, because, you know, if we have, and, you know, there's no question that our number one thing here is voter integrity. I appreciate you giving us this data, and according to your 635 number, we're about, rough off the head, I have it at 0.17. So you're saying that we're off by about 1.4, 0.14 percentage points off of that. So, it's certainly, if something that's mandated by the Secretary of State, we're definitely gonna check into it.
I appreciate
You coming in.
Yeah,
and
thank
doing
you.
that.
These are your copies here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have a copy for council also?
I did not, but.
That's all right.
we make. Oh, actually, Mr. Blaine isn't here, so, Board Member Blaine, so if you wanted to.
Okay.
Pass that on. Next time.
Great.
Thank you.
The citizen wraps up and gives the board copies of a report. In the next clip, pay careful attention to the director, red shirt with dark vest, whose attitude and body language are telling.
Thank you. Yep, you're welcome. And we do have an extra one, so I'm gonna give that to the director. Do you have this already? No? Okay. All right, great. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Member Ralph.
Clearly, the director needs to go and the board needs a refresh. We have an entire series of additional videos which will further demonstrate this director's intransigence, lack of care, and arrogance toward tax-paying citizens for whom he works. Unseating a poorly performing county employee like this is challenging, but can be done. It requires making politicians uncomfortable, extremely uncomfortable. Thinking you can build rapport and seek mutual agreement with people like the director or our elected representatives is a waste of time. Don't believe me? See the training from the Foundation for Applied Conservative Leadership to understand why. This video is brought to you by the Grassroots Freedom Initiative, or GFI for short. If you're not already on our email and text lists, please be sure to join our network of thousands of Ohioans. It's easy, free, and we won't ask you for money. Visit gfiohio.com and click the Join Us button in the upper right-hand corner of any page. Or text the letters GFI to 66866 and follow the prompts. And please be sure to find and follow us on YouTube and Rumble. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, and give us a like to be made aware when we post new content. Thanks for watching. Please remember to stay informed and get engaged.